Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a Merry Christmas to you. And someone just interrupted me right there. My apologies. No, of course, when I am skirmishing, as it say on casting a replay, don't kindly bother me. Of course, it won't do you any good. I can't respond. And of course, this is a pre-recorded message, of course, since I'll be elsewhere on Christmas. So hopefully you'll be enjoying this while I will be busy heroically lounging elsewhere in the world, eating fat Danish Christmas food. Eventually. So of course a 1 versus 1 on Semois. Yes indeed, we shall be seeing in the darkness of Semois, we shall be seeing two forces clash for dominance. Who shall be fighting? Well, here in the northern part we are seeing Lexusx. Yes indeed, Lexusx. It sounds very smart, sleek, like a fast sports car. American made, of course, ready to be crushed by the German war machine. And opposing him shall be, well yes indeed, it's me, ImperialDane. Fighting for the Fatherland, 352nd Grenadier Division. He fighting for the 3rd Armored Division. And in fact, having gone past that, let's in fact get right down to it. Let's not dally about, let's not dilly about. Let's get right to the Christmas action. It was the night before Christmas, and the Wehrmacht was on the move. Or something like that. And we are seeing the sort of usual start, Wehrmacht quarters going up, Pioneers heading... I said Pioneers. Oh right, I had to sort of alt-tab right here. Something was off, but there we go. A few seconds delay, my apologies. Heading towards here to secure that. The Americans doing, well, pretty much the same. Engineers heading southwards. And yes, indeed, he's saying, he's begun playing company affairs again, and he's saying, I'm right, cover is important. Well, damn yes. Christ. I wonder what other revelations people might discover, from watching my cast. Well, I have to be on the other side of it. I might want to consider not charging my men into a burning house. Absolutely brilliant, Dane. You're a genius. And what is this? We're in fact seeing a 4-engineer start from Lexusx, the sports car of the American Army, until it runs right into a StuG. Volksgrenadiers ready. Slightly less able troops of the 352nd Grenadier Division, or Infantry Division. The Grenadier was basically a sort of honorific title after Stalingrad, basically sort of give them a bit more, sense of honor and duty, and they are being part of an awesome German army or something like that. They were changed from infantry to Grenadiers, and of course motorized infantry, which was by then known as Schützen, in most cases was changed into Panzergrenadiere. So fun bit there. Laying down the barbed wire here, of course, as usual. Nothing particularly off there. Engineers securing as much as you can, of course, and that's rather the bit about the 4-engineer start. You can secure a bloody lot of territory right off the bat, and of course I'm rather unawares of this. I'm just getting, my usual let's get some Volksgrenadier strategy off the bat. And they are, well, seizing quite a bit, going straight for here, in fact. Of course, at the same time, at this stage, well, I basically have 2 Volksgrenadier teams on the way. He already has most of the map, and he'll soon be having 1 rifleman team. So, a bit nasty that. 4 engineers barracks is certainly a nasty thing. And again, he's currently holding, well, pretty much most of the map, while I'm sort of just holding the center, not entirely sure what to expect, but basically, beginning to dig in, at least, One thing you always want to generally try as a Wehrmacht, sometimes it can be bloody hard because, again, the Americans do love to harass, do love to charge. Your Volksgrenadiers can have a bit of trouble, actually stopping the Americans from charging, which is a bit of something that bothers me from time to time. But, I mean, generally you want some sort of strong point where the opponent is going to have to expend a much greater effort actually to sort of do anything towards you. And a 2nd rifleman team on the way, I'm getting an MG42. Moving towards here, I can sort of spot the American on the other side of the cafe. Possibly because the cafe owner is telling me, I don't know. Well, I do know, but, I don't want him to get shot by the resistance. And laying down some sandbags right here. Of course, currently the Americans won't be able to do much, so sand fortifications going up right away, allowing me to sort of take here, and Ryan Rifleman, in fact, goes down right there. Heavy cover, and of course the fact that Volksgrenadiers do have a slight advantage at range, but the thing is, though, and this is of course the thing that most people don't tell you, is that the advantage compared to the advantage American riflemen enjoy up close is very minute. It's like, they do 1 more DPS at range, while the Americans might do, like 7 damage per second or whatever, It's quite a difference. So if someone tries to catch with that, well, you have to point that out. And of course, knowing some engineers here, I'm not, in fact, entirely sure what's going on. Of course, I'm not rather registered at this stage. This 4-engineer start. But I'm putting a stop to these engineers with my MG42. Laying down some barbed wire here to prevent this cover from being used. Also, of course, hinders his movement, much to my advantage. Pioneers cutting through, or engineers cutting through here. Those are not pioneers, they're American. Volksgun is moving in to put a stop to that. Laying down some more barbed wire again to sort of hinder movement. Again, that is certainly one very nice thing about barbed wire, of course. The more you can hinder the movement of your opponent, the much easier time you can actually have. And there we go, Rifleman charging forwards for Uncle Sam. Getting shot down. Volksgunners might consider pulling back a bit, you know, and still, they can't really move through all of this mess, you know, combined with the cafe. And in fact, that rather means my Volksgunners can keep them at bay. And now the MG42 moves in as well, getting a few shots off there. Engineers moving in here, which rather, for some reason, makes me a bit nervous, since, of course, he might be having some flamethrowers there. Engineers hiding down here. Of course, sort of trying to hide from the Volksgunners are sort of, well, where those army wankers gone off to. Several riflemen going down there, cutting through the wire. Several losses for the riflemen, in fact, right there. Now charging forwards. MG42 cannot provide cover and trying to hit those engineers, but sadly the Volksgunners run out of cover. But there we go, engineer team is down. That's 1 out of 4, giving him only 3 engineers at this stage. And the riflemen themselves are not looking too well either. Quite a bit of fine, of course, still maintaining, you know, my focus, my Schwerpunkt, that is my point of effort right here in the center. And of course, that's rather the important thing, you know, as always to try. As the Wehrmacht, of course, you need a point of focus. You need essentially the main point of your efforts. That sort of thing that actually sort of went through in the Wehrmacht. And of course, very important considering, again, your Volksgunners are rather rubbish on their own. Of course, you need something, and even then you need barbed wire. You need lots of barbed wire, you need sandbags, you need a lot of things to really get them the best they can. And of course, that's also rather where things can fall apart as the Wehrmacht, because, well, you don't always have the time for it, which is rather why Volksgunners can stand off as rather weak at times, because, again, you know, you can only have them out for a few seconds, and you might have riflemen charging at them, so you sort of have to sort of think through and perhaps, you know, get up some prepared positions even in your own territory, and not right, for example, next to the point where you might want them the most. Yes, I know it's not exactly the most ecstatic thing you want to hear, but it's rather it. And once more going cutting off here, and by this time with flamethrowers, rather meaning I need something else. Creek bags going up, and of course I have still no idea if he's going to go for BARs, M8 or something else. He does go for the observation post here with fuel, so he clearly has got something in the mind. Engineers hiding here. Volksgunners sort of figuring, well, that's it. Getting some MP40s from my Volksgunners, laying down more barbed wire, denying even more cover, and again making it much harder for him to actually move about. That sort of thing you want to do when you do match and speed off the Americans. Get yourself some time, lay down barbed wire, make a sort of strong position right here, as you might have noticed. Quite a bit of barbed wire, making things a lot more difficult to sort of attack, and of course getting my MG42 more protection.
We are losing territory.
And a mine hit right here, rifleman pinned down. They do not lose anyone. And minesweepers ready, waiting for some Volksgunners to actually provide some support to clear out those damn engineers. And riflemen sort of lounging about, getting ready for the charge, and of course lounging about with other 2 rifleman teams right here, of course alerting me to the fact, hey, wait a minute, that's something going on right there. I do not like it. Still no doctrine for me as of yet. I'm a bit unsure what to go for. I could go defensive, you know, I am holding some amount of territory, and of course it's going to be hard to hold it all, so of course defensive would fit in here. I could of course also go blitzkrieg and sort of charge in. I could also go terror if I'm not entirely sure what to do, because terror does give some advantage. But moving in, my Volksgunner is taking up position, some in the house. MP40 is leading the charge right into the riflemen. Riflemen caught outside the building, and there we go, 1 down, the rest retreating. At the same time they're moving in through the north, forcing me to perhaps move my forces further here. And once more engineers charging in and preventing me from taking back that fuel point. That's a very nasty move, in fact not my favorite one by a long shot. We are seeing the supply yard up as well. Grenadiers moving forwards, going to put a stop to these damn engineers once for all. And others hiding towards here, sort of providing any sort of cover. And there we go. Riflemen now coming out in a bit of fire. Volksgunners, of course, trying to sort of achieve the position so they can hit them from here, you know, where the cover does not apply. And of course, those riflemen will be taking quite some losses. And there we go. Only 2 men left. Making a hurried run for it. Only 1 man left, in fact. Will he make it? Yes, indeed. But I still need to stop those engineers. Other flamethrower engineers not moving in due to the presence of the Grenadier. Other riflemen hanging about there. And Browning automatic rifles have been equipped. Now sneaking through here, perhaps going for this cut-off point. Frustrating that. A Grenadier team on the way, of course, getting a pack for it. And of course, I have no idea what to expect, of course. And as soon as you get the BARs, I already have the pack for some time. Of course, now I have to put a stop to this harassment. He's constantly, harassing again. That sort of was one of the things, with the 4 engineers. Besides, you can get 4 engineers, get them with flamethrowers, besides your rifleman BRs, which gives you quite a lot of offensive power. You can attack from a lot of flanks. And trouble is, an engineer with a flamethrower, is very dangerous. Slip one through, and it might as well be a rifleman team with a BAR, and you're in trouble. That's again this sort of thing with this. You're going to end up with a lot of things to, have to react to. So again, trying to get off as much barbed wire if possible. Rifleman engineers sort of moving about in the north. And for some reason, the troops here do not actually follow up on my order, or I misclicked, I don't know. Once more forced away from here, trying to lay down mines. Volksgrenadier suffering some losses. And several grenadier teams now moving in, having gotten a second one. And getting straight for the Sturm Armory. And of course, the skirmish phase. And MD-42 catching these riflemen engineers right there. Getting a slight advantage. And grenadiers doing their best to hold the position here. Grenades getting knocked at the riflemen, and one down, and they are charging straight into the grenadiers. 2 men down, and now the rest are running away in the face of the more stout troops of the 352nd. Moving forwards for the fatherland. At the same time, these chaps are pinned down now. In fact, Lexusx running into a bit of trouble and moving through here, using these to keep the riflemen occupied while the other team moves over to the other side of the road, thus being able to flank. And there we go, 2 riflemen down. At the same time, he's going for the tank depot, and of course that's something he's got a lot of fuel of, because he's holding this, but also because he took this. And of course, trouble is, and again, rather nasty thing with 4 engineers and all that is, I can't, I have to hold some strong point. Of course, even that, while I want to hold it, it's also going to cause me problems here from then. And of course, if I don't have this, I might find myself in a lot of trouble and actually want to make sort of a movement from anywhere to anywhere else. Again, that's sort of the thing that can be a bit of a balancing act against the Americans, because they can such easily retain initiative and motivation compared to, for example, the Wehrmacht, where of course if one thing goes wrong, you're suddenly much swift on the defensive. Grenadiers moving in here, perhaps hoping to cut off all of this. The rifleman BRs right next by, not looking good. Lobbing a grenade at them, but this is not looking good for those grenadiers. 3 down though, 2 down. And grenadiers themselves taking a loss, but the riflemen are forced away. And American assault moving in, engineers and Volksgrenadiers sort of moving about here in the south, securing as much territory as they can, keeping up the pressure on American friend, or well, not friend, more of an opponent. And there we go, Grenadiers now getting caught. Might want to consider retreating. And 1 down, and the rest moving away. And of course I am lacking fuel due to the sort of lack of having this point for quite a bit of time. Riflemen moving in. MP40 equipped Volksgrenadiers getting ready to make any sort of movement through here. Very, very unpleasant. Finding away with all of their submachine guns. Not quite managing to kill anything though. Tank depot is up, and of course note he does have a lot of fuel again to this, but also holding this point for quite a bit of time. And Volksgrenadiers under fire as riflemen move in. Grenadiers getting reinforced. Well, they have taken quite some damage, and I don't quite have the munitions to actually get them healed up. Or the veterans, of course, I rather fear I might need a StuG or something like that. And of course, note, tank depot, so he's going to very soon be getting a Sherman. I suspect very soon, about now. There we go, M4 Sherman on the way. Volksgrenadiers is keeping the riflemen occupied here, firing a bit away. Of course, not the best position, but at the same time, better than I feel than just a full retreat. Allowing my grenadiers to move up to sort of put a stop to that. Riflemen hanging about here. It's a bit of status quo. Mines going down there. Mines going down there. Sturm Armory going up. 1 rifleman down to the defenders in the house. 4 rifleman teams and now 3 engineers. Of course, he has expended a bit more munitions, but at the same time, he does have the greater amount of initiative, and of course, he can give a lot more ground. And of course, the thing is, as the Wehrmacht, in particular in Tier 1, you're not going to be that great, in attacking. Pioneers hit a mine there, not looking too well. Engineers getting shot up there, but Volksgrenadiers laying down wide there, so they can't sneak through here and into there. Riflemen taking some losses in the north. Down to 3 men and retreating. And the Sherman is ready. Sturm Armory is up, but I don't think I actually have access to the StuG.
We are losing a fuel point.
Might be getting a Nebelwerfer instead. Yes, indeed, Nebelwerfer. Smoke thrower, fog thrower, whatever thrower I might consider it. And riflemen deciding not to attack through here again due to the heavy presence of barbed wire. Instead, they flank. And there we go, the Nebelwerfer being provided by some Werfer regiment. And Rifleman standing out in the open, coming under fire from Volksgrenadiers, 2 men down. And of course they can't really advance due to, again, the barbed wire. And of course they don't really get much cover again due to barbed wire. Some of Volksgrenadiers do hold the small advantage there, but now the Sherman is moving in. Crashing through the barbed wire, opening up on the MG42. Rifleman still taking losses. And the Nebelwerfer fires, hoping to catch these chaps here. Doesn't quite achieve it though. In fact, they run away before it hits anything, much to my dismay. Volksgrenadiers pulling away, hoping to lure the Sherman into the line of fire of the Pak 38. Well, that didn't do much for my Nebelwerfer.
Initiating defensive operations.
So getting another Pak 38, and I imagine a StuG 4 as soon as possible. And I do believe it's time for the mid-game analysis. What is the current situation? Currently the American does hold the initiative, having broken through with a Sherman, catching me a bit off guard. Well, not completely, but still sufficiently enough to give me pause. He still retains most of all of his infantry. In fact, he lost only 1 engineer team, and of course I've been kept under a lot of pressure on all flanks, which has of course caused me some delay in getting this StuG. And of course, I mean, I had to either hold this point or this point, and of course that's a bit the problem again. American forces are much more singularly, much more powerful, of course, as the Wehrmacht. You need to focus things a bit more, and of course that's rather where clever Americans to actually much more easily break in. And of course that's another way where for some Wehrmacht players it can get incredibly frustrating, because you're rather feeling, you know, what can I do? He's everywhere, and of course I can't spread out my forces like he can, otherwise I begin losing men. So the question is, what do I do? And of course, yes, might get a Kampfkraft center, but then of course you might be failing in another place, and of course then you might not get a StuG when he has a Sherman. All those things are considerations, and of course the Americans most of the time will be able to take the initiative. Your trick is of course to essentially try and sort of rob it from him, try to sort of ambush his troops and really give him a beating, and then of course sort of just try pushing onwards and doing your best not to lose it. But again, that's the tricky part. Anyhow, I mean, he's currently holding it. I'm on the other end, a bit more on the back foot, though I do get a Kampfkraft sent up. I do have a StuG on the way, and I'll probably be getting some armor veterancy for that StuG right away as well. So, and of course I'll probably be needing to knock out that Sherman, and of course secure the center once more of the town, once more for the Wehrmacht, for the 352nd Grenadier Division. In fact, let's get right down to it. Sherman moving about most regally. Pak 38 turning out, Grenadiers nearby with a Panzerschreck perhaps even. Yes, there we go. And hitting the Sherman. Good show, good show. Further troops advancing. Sherman moving through the church, of course, ensuring the cover of the urban warfare. Advancing right once more and calling in artillery on my Pak 38, which of course is a bit of a problem for me. Trying desperately to get that Pak 38 away. Another Pak 38 advances. Also note, this has quite a short cooldown actually. Volksgrenadiers trying to pull away here, and Pak 38's getting away. Trying desperately, of course, to reinforce as many troops as possible. StuG 4 advancing, Sturmgeschützwehr. Called in from the Panzerjägerabteilung. Mostly they weren't actually used like that, but of course in some cases they were. Of course noting this force here, so trying to find a Nebelwerfer off on that, but of course that's also going to cause a bit of a problem here. And StuG moving in to hunt the Sherman down. Pak 38's rather vulnerable. StuG could get the Sherman. MG42 sending up Grenadiers and Volksgrenadiers advancing. And artillery getting called in. Of course, I'm rather occupied here. So this, of course, is going to end up badly. And there we go. Heavy losses, Volksgrenadier team. And even further losses. Pak 38 cleared out. Grenadier team lost. This is an absolute massacre. 2 packs lost. Volksgrenadiers, Grenadiers. A lot of things actually dying. In fact, only my Volksgrenadiers are in fact surviving. All Grenadiers are killed in this fight. And again, the howitzer is, well, incredibly powerful. I mean, compared to most other artillery, which also costs 150, like say the officer artillery, you know, it does quite a bit. Sadly, the officer artillery doesn't, which costs the exact same. And for some reason, though, there he actually tries to recruit that Pak 38, and thus he's actually lost 1 infantry team in the process. Volksgrenadiers hunt down that Pak 38. StuG having secured 1 Sherman killed. Small victory there. Pioneers have in fact been forgotten down there. Nebelwerfer still there, not having secured any kills, but going immediately for replacing my grenadiers. And also rather realizing I'm going to be needing a lot of resources to replace all the things I've lost. So of course, question is, how do I go about that? How do I go about doing that indeed? Another Sherman on the way. Americans pulling back after having been sufficiently bruised.
Artillery support is now available.
Pioneers advancing through the south. Volksgun is being dispatched north. StuG remaining here just in case of another Sherman already being there. Grenadiers hiding. Not quite keen on suffering the safe fate of as their other comrades. Ever so quiet. Further veterans are on the way. Volksgun is moving northwards. And there we go. Sherman is ready. And Riflemen coming under fire immediately from the Volksgrenadiers. Others taking up position there, which might prompt my StuG to move northwards to deal with that. There we go. Riflemen under fire as well. Once more being caught up in this position. Once more my Volksgrenadiers getting off the best shots there. Blasting away. Riflemen taking losses and running away with most swift speed. Grenadiers and StuG 4 moving up to deal with those Riflemen ensconced within that position. Pioneers forced away here. Large American counterattack. And the Sherman once more on the move. Not entirely sure why those Volksgrenadiers moved there. That might have been a misclick due to using the Minimat or something else. And Riflemen caught right there. Grenadiers taking up position right behind them. One Rifleman down. The rest getting out of there very quickly. Sherman getting ready. Yes, indeed. And of course, I mean, now I'm slightly able to turn things around despite, you know, the heavy losses. I'm not doing all too badly, but I am going to be needing something. And of course, I do have a plan, which I soon will be able to show you. Just let's wait for the 20-minute mark.
Losing ground out there.
A slightly clever plan, in fact. Rather than moving in here, running straight into the StuG 4. Grenadiers and Volksgrenadiers and everything else. MG42 hiding here. And of course, lots of munitions as well. StuG got hit by that Panzerschreck stolen by the Americans, of course. And the Pak 38 getting cleared out. Nebelwerfer was firing, setting off the mine, but doing nothing else. Riflemen taking some losses. Riflemen team down. MG42, of course, hiding. But of course, if the building collapses on it, it won't do much. And this building is in fact close to collapsing. And there we go, one hit. And that MG42 is no more. Volksgun is forced away. Flamethrower engineers were too much. And now that Sherman is pulling a bit of a problem. And note, it has been upgraded with the 76mm gun, which increases penetration in particular, making it that much more lethal against the Sturmgeschütz. Of course, I've not quite noticed that, so I just charge it in. StuG opens up on the Sherman. I do believe at this stage you perhaps might be noticing, oh wait, something's not quite right. This Sherman is a bit too eager. And there you go, further damage to the StuG. And of course, in this point, I rather realize I need to get that StuG out of there, otherwise I might be in a lot more trouble. Pioneers standing by, Volksgrenadiers and Grenadiers moving forwards. Now it's actually time to go look at me again. And yes, indeed, I have gone for Manpower Blitz. I had a lot of munitions, so I rather figured, well, I need some mana to quickly replace all of my losses. What do? Manpower Blitz. So getting several Grenadiers, and could also be getting a StuG now. Grenadiers with Panzerschreck moving in, because I had that much munitions, in fact. And assaulting the Riflemen moving in from the south, hoping to catch that Sherman with a Panzerschreck in the rear. StuG firing in support, but sadly, the Grenadiers just don't seem able to be getting off a shot, which rather prompts me to retreat. Riflemen getting bombarded with grenades. Further infantry advancing. Engineers taking up position right there. StuG 4 awfully damaged. Riflemen under fire. Pioneers begin repairing the Sturmgeschütz. The assault gun. And dropping off a sticky bomb on the StuG. Grenadiers moving into support. Volksgrenadiers and Riflemen facing off. And the Riflemen are in fact sent running away, scurrying. And Riflemen are in fact completely cut down right there. A glorious victory for the fatherland. And in fact means he's actually suffered some in the Rifleman department at this stage. Having some luck now, actually. Pak 38 advances, hoping to get off a good shot on that Sherman. StuG also moves in. Sherman rather realizes things might be getting a bit dangerous. Or dangerous. Making a run for it. Lexusx pulling out his shiny Sherman tank. Second, no, that's not a skirmishes, but it is on the way. And another Pack 38, of course. Of course, note that the Manpower Blitz does decrease my manpower income quite a bit for some time. So I'm barely getting any manpower at this stage. And he does actually have a supplied upgrade, so that's good, though no medic station. Of course, I don't have a medic bunkers either. That might have something to do with the increased pressure and me not quite feeling I have the time or munitions or manpower. But still, the Manpower Blitz certainly allowed me to turn things around a slight bit. Taking up positions here, beginning to take away points, cutting off, harassing on my own. Second Sherman ready. The 3rd Armored Division is not resting at this stage of the war. And the StuG reporting it is the workhorse of the Axis Empire. That is certainly true. The StuG was one of the most produced armored vehicles in the entire German army, and certainly also one of the most used, and certainly one of the most well used for everything. I mean, it was used as a panzer, tank destroyer, artillery, everything basically. Grenadiers getting an LMG 42 to support the Sturmgeschütz, covering here in case he might decide to charge through, but at the same time slowly considering moving through here. Of course, note I've suddenly able to shift back with a lot of infantry. Now in fact I have 3 grenadier teams beside the 3 full grenadier teams that actually survived. Taking points here as well. At this stage, of course, I do begin considering again. He's probably moving towards the west, because again there's nothing here, and again I might just be careful, moving up my Pack 38 just so he doesn't charge through in the west, and of course I'd rather he doesn't have the forces there and suffer evil losses. There we go, the Shermans are moving forward. No 50 caliber machine gun upgrades though. Grenadiers under fire. Magnificently enough, the Shermans don't quite hit, but there we go. StuG opens up on the rear of the Sherman. Pack 38 opens up as well. Riflemen and Rangers with submachine guns. Grenadiers with light machine gun firing away as well in response to this American audacity, while the StuG also blasts away. Veteran 2 on the way for armor. Grenadiers retreating, being charged by flamethrower engineers. 1 Sherman already down. 3 victory points now in the hands of the Wehrmacht. And the Nebelwerfer firing at this point, howling at the skies, singing a dirge of American death. And there we go, Rangers already suppressed. And heavy losses for the rifle. In fact, the entire rifle team goes down. Full Grenadiers also firing in support. And Sherman not looking too happy here. Engineers though continuing onwards. StuG 4 advances. Lots of flamethrowers engineers moving through here. And the Volksgun is simply getting scorched. StuG now with light machine gun. Sherman not moving in to support instantly enough. Moving the other StuG over to support the initial effort. Well, to sort of counter here. And my Pack 38 getting charged. Of course, now the Sherman won't be able to do much. Engineers down. Sherman pulling away, rather realizing things are lost here in the west. Pack 38 getting scorched. That was less than helpful. Veteran 2 for these engineers. StuG opening up on them, crushing one beneath its mighty treads. Rangers getting ready once more. Sherman moving about. Could be trying for another push through here, which is conveniently getting wired off by the Volksgrenadiers. Other troops getting ready to push through as well. And looks like the entire west, in fact, has been cleared up. A 50-second having withstood the test of artillery. More barbed wire. Rangers getting ready. Sherman also getting ready. What is remaining is getting ready, but he's certainly not giving up. And of course, with the Sherman, that's easier to imagine. Volksgun is pulling away, waiting for support from the StuGs. Once more on the move. The 350-second was certainly not supposed to get StuGs as such. They were actually supposed to get Martyrs, but again, for some reason, they got StuGs instead to sort of replace the Panzerjäger Abteilung, or at least the mobile part of it. StuG moving in, hunting down the M4 Sherman. Sherman in a bit of trouble now, facing off against 2 StuGs. And Blitzkrieg, yes indeed, ladies and gentlemen, Blitzkrieg. And artillery moving in, and howitzer has in fact been built. Volksgrenadiers charging forwards for the fatherland with speed and swiftness, increased rate of fire, everything else. Grenadiers running in to support. The StuGs opening up on the Rangers. Of course, infantry also in fact fought a bit faster. Rangers getting grenaded. Sherman down in seconds. Just getting absolutely murdered by the now blitzkrieging Volksgrenadiers and Grenadiers. Everything getting suppressed. Everything getting shot up. Howitzer is gone. I repeat, Howitzer is gone. But the Wehrmacht does not give up. No, ladies and gentlemen, the Wehrmacht fights on. StuGs begin clearing out that machine gun emplacement. However, shall it go? Well, I know. Troops beginning to get pinned down, but they do not retreat. And now veterans free from the StuGs, giving them armored skirts, giving them some protection against tank, well, bazookas and the likes. And the machine gun emplacement is down. StuG force moving forwards for the fatherland. The path has been cleared. The infantry is once more ready to march forwards. Barracks under fire. And now a tank destroyer has been called in to deal with these nasty StuGs. Grenade Panzer on the way for the Grenadiers, fighting away with LMGs. Rangers and Engineers moving forwards, coming under fire a bit. Grenadiers pulling slightly back. Volksgrenadiers moving up to lay down some sandbags for them, giving them a bit of a cover. And now the Rangers are coming under heavy machine gun fire from the StuGs, from the Grenadiers. And getting suppressed in the process. And begin to take losses. The fire being suppressed. And there we go, getting pinned down. Simply too much fire from all those machine guns. And now the StuGs move in to clear out that tank destroyer. Engineers desperately trying to repair it. Rangers trying to desperately knock out that StuG. And getting shot down in the process. Grenadiers blasting away with LMG fire. And the main gun destroyed on the M10. Or the M18, that's a Hellcat. Main gun destroyed on the StuG. Barely being held together. And the Rangers go down. Only a single tank destroyer. Only some engineers. Wait, there we go. Rangers being called in. And the Hellcat goes down. Now there's only the engineers left who are now in fact charging forwards. Right at the Grenadiers and the StuGs. And getting gunned down now. The Rangers move in. Lexusx hoping to the last to turn things around. And there we go. Game over. A victory for the fatherland and the 352nd. A glorious victory. And of course, what can we learn from it? Well, of course, again, this sort of idea of, focusing your defenses. Again, that can be very important. Of course, again, you use barbed wire. Of course, most of it is, in fact, at this stage, gone. But again, you saw how it made things a lot more difficult for an opponent to move about again. That's sort of the trick. In particular, when you have such an aggressive opponent trying to attack from all points, then the trick is basically to sort of create one point where he simply can't break through no matter how much he tries. And of course he wants to, and he will be suffering for it. That's rather what you want to achieve in those cases. And of course, Grenadiers are nice, Panzerx and LMGs are alright. And of course, sometimes even you suffer a whole loss. Of course, perhaps, having not gone for a doctrine right away can provide with the solution. In this case, of course, it was going Blitzkrieg, going for the Manpower Blitz, which allowed me to turn things around and beat those Americans. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, why not subscribe and tell your friends? And if you didn't, well, why not send in a replay of your own? And of course, Merry Christmas to you all. Cheers.